The brief history of Vietnamese coffee. When it comes to Vietnamese coffee, it is certainly no longer strange to coffee lovers around the world. This is a country with coffee output in the top 5 in the world, and in particular, Vietnamese coffee brings an indescribably charming flavors. But about the history of Vietnamese coffee, perhaps not many people really know it. To talk about the first coffee trees grown in Vietnam, we must mention 1857, when the French missionaries brought the first coffee tree to Vietnam from the first and second plantations in Indochina. From then on, the journey of coffee development in Vietnam officially began. The coffee tree has made strong changes, escaping from subsidized institutions. Up to now, the crop variety has been compared to the black diamond, becoming one of the crops with the highest export value, and bringing Vietnam is one of the leading positions on the world coffee map. Start of coffee growing in Vietnam. 1857. The Arabica coffee variety, Coffea arabica, often called tea coffee by Vietnamese people, was the first coffee variety brought to Vietnam. To the French missionaries, it has been tested in Catholic churches in northern provinces such as Ninh Bình, Thanh Hóa, Nghệ An, and Hà Tĩnh, and then spread to some central provinces such as Quảng Trị and Quảng Bình. Finally, coffee was brought to the southern provinces of the Central Highlands and the Southeast. Here people discover that this is the real land for coffee cultivation. 1908. After half a century since Arabica coffee was grown in Vietnam, the French once again brought two other types of coffee, Robusta coffee, Canephora, and Excelsa coffee Excelsa to Vietnam without stopping. The French tested many different varieties from Congo in the Central Highlands and witnesses the very good development of coffee in this area. Throughout the world, and until 1986, many coffee producing areas developed, but very slowly and with low yields. In 1986, the total area of the country devoted to coffee production was only about 50,000 hectares, and the production volume were 18,400 tons, just over 300,000 kilogram bags. In the early years of the 20th century, with the three coffee varieties Arabica, Robusta, and Excelsa, People plant its own three types of coffee together on the northern plantation with Typica coffee, with the Arabica variety, Canephora coffee, and the Robusta variety, and Liberica coffee, with the Excelsa variety in 1930. Vietnam had 5,900 hectares of coffee, including 4,700 hectares of Arabica coffee and 900 hectares of Excelsa coffee and 300 hectares of Robusta coffee. After a long time of cultivating the above three coffee variety, people have made comments about coffee growing areas. The results show that Arabica coffee plants do not produce desired result because they are easily attacked by Psilocyodus, Quadrips, stem borer, and Hermilia vastachic rust fungus. Coffee Robusta does not grow well in the north because winter temperatures are too low compared to ecological requirement of this plant. Only Excelsa coffee grows well and has good yields, but its commercial value is low. After that time, foreign experts recorded loaded not growing Arabica coffee in Vietnam and only grow Robusta coffee in the south and Excelsa coffee in the north. The period 1960 and 1970, the northern Vietnam, a series of state-owned farms were established, including dozens of coffee farms, and growing on three coffee varieties on the same farm. The development of the coffee in these years were not very positive, and finally in the early 70s, people concluded that coffee could not be grown in the north. Reform and the leap in output 1975. At this time, the world country in the north and south only had about 13,000 hectares, with an output of about 6,000 tons. And also after 1975, Vietnam's coffee industry entered a period of strong development. 1980, a coffee development program in Vietnam developed by the Coca-Cola Coffee Company under the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Industry was submitted to the Standing Council of Ministers and allowed to be implemented. Next, a series of coffee production cooperation agreements were signed between the governments of Vietnam and the Soviet Union. Nearly planted 20,000 hectares of coffee, and the German Democratic Republic 10,000 hectares, Bulgaria 5,000 hectares, and Czechoslovakia 10,000 hectares, 5,000 hectares, and Poland 5,000 hectares. 1982, the Union of Vietnam Coffee Enterprise was established under Decree 174 of the Council of Ministers with the participation of 3 military divisions and a number of companies under the Ministry of Agriculture and other companies, Taklak, Yalai, Kon Tum, low quality. The coffee development program was expanded in the Central Highlands and Southeast provinces. The type of coffee chosen to expand the area in Robusta coffee, a coffee variety that prefers hot and humid climates and is least susceptible to harmful effects of rust disease. 1986, the turning point. In 1986, Vietnam Coffee Enterprises Union, with support from the Ministries of Agriculture, Planning, Finance, Foreign Trade, organized a conference on coffee development in households. Farmer families in the Central Highlands, Central Coast, and Southeast provinces hold the first People's Coffee Conference, along with the new policy and the strong stimulations of coffee prices on the international market, which were rising. At that time, the Vietnamese coffee industry developed quickly and strongly. Since 1986, the Vietnamese government has focused investment resources on the coffee sector, aiming to transform coffee into an important agricultural industry. In addition to state funds, government also encourages individual households to grow coffee. Therefore, coffee production in Vietnam has exploded in area, output, and export value. It was not until the late 80s of the 20th century that the Vietnamese coffee industry introduced a Cà Timor coffee variety of Arabica coffee variety into production. Since then, Arabica coffee began to be grown in Vietnam with the rust-resistant Cà Timor variety. That is also basis for Vietnam Coffee Corporation to build a program to develop Arabica coffee in Vietnam. Vietnamese coffee, after more than a century, an unbelievable transformation. In the late 1990s, Vietnam became the leading coffee producer in Southeast Asia, and after Brazil, the second producer and exporter of green coffee in the world. The coffee production steadily increased by 20% to 30% each year during the 1980s, with small coffee gardens planted on 500,000 plots of land, 2 to 3 acres. This has helped strongly turn around the economy. During the reform, the coffee industry was nationalized, developed strongly in the Central Highlands provinces, and private enterprises were replicated, leading to a sudden development of the coffee processing industry. The cooperative link between growers producers, and the government has resulted in building a finished coffee brand and exporting retail products. Typically, examples include Trung Nguyên Coffee in 1996 and Highland Coffee in 1998. Conclusion: Vietnamese coffee since 1857 now has gone through many stages of the transformation. Up to now, it has been shown that Vietnam is a rich coffee land with delicious, flavorful coffees known all over the world. Coffee culture has long penetrated deeply into the Vietnamese people. Coffee has become a morning drink for Vietnamese people. Coffee can be enjoyed anywhere, from a cup of coffee on the roadside to luxury restaurant. Vietnamese coffee always accompanies simple coffee farmers, bringing countless people out of the quagmire of poverty. Coffee is a red friend who does not know how to shunk, only knows how to confide in us when we are happy, but also when we are tired and sad.